Good morning, everyone. It's casual Thursday here while I'm recording this, so I um, beg your indulgence in my clothing here today. But I just wanted to take a couple of moments to encourage you and challenge you from some of the things about some of the things that have been going on. A part of our reading through the book of Isaiah, we read chapters 24 and 25 and 26 this week. And of course, those are wonderful chapters. And in this time when there are so many concerns about COVID, about vaccinations, not only concerns, but there's also doubt. And then there's concerns and doubts about the election and what's going to happen with our future and all the political machinations that are going on. And then along with that, in both those areas, the pressure to conform and to think like everyone else. And then, of course, there's kind of this constant thing, which some of us may be going through now more than others, where there's this continuous pressure. There's jobs and questions about our future, questions about our loved ones. So when we read through these chapters, and I'm not going to go into them in depth, but I would just encourage you to read them if you haven't already. I think we're past that time when we should have been reading in our reading calendar. That you read these. Chapter 24 is an entire chapter from Isaiah where the prophet talks about God judging the earth. Again, I'll just a couple highlights. It says in verse 3, the earth shall be utterly empty and utterly plundered. The earth mourns in verse 4 and withers. The world languishes and withers. Verse 6, a curse devours the earth. So he goes on that entire chapter and talks about the destruction that's going to come, judgment that's going to come from God on to all of the earth. And then in chapter 25, he begins, O Lord, you are my God, and I will exalt you and I will praise your name, for you have done wonderful things, plans formed of old, faithful and sure. And then he talks about the judgment, and then he talks about how people are going to glorify God for all that he's done. Verse 4, you've been a stronghold to the poor and a stronghold to the needy in his distress, a shelter from storm, a shade from the heat. He says in verse 8 of 25, he will swallow up death forever, and the Lord God will wipe away tears from all faces. And we know that's repeated later on in the book. In verse 9, it says, it will be said on that day, behold, this is our God, and we have waited for him that he might save us. And so he's going through this, and in the midst of this destruction, where he's promising this destruction as a word from God, he's also promising a restoration and a healing and a blessing and righteous judgment. The judgment that God will bring is righteous, and we can trust in him that. It says, as chapter 25 ends, it says, but the Lord will lay low his pompous pride together with the skill of his hands, and the high fortifications of his walls he will bring down, lay low, and cast to the ground, to the dust. So this judgment of God will come on the haughty and on the proud and those who have rejected him. And so these promises are there. And in chapter 26, we have these beautiful verses. You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. Verse 4, trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord God is an everlasting rock. I'm not going to read the rest of it or make reference to the rest of it. You can do that, and I would encourage you to do so in these troubling times. One thing that is sure in these troubling times, nothing in this world is sure. Let me repeat that. One thing that is sure is that nothing in this world is sure. There is nothing here we can depend upon. We cannot depend on economies. We cannot depend on medical systems. We cannot depend on the best country in the world with the best political system in the world, it's possible they can't be trusted. God is always faithful. He can always be trusted. And because of that, when our thoughts are on him, and Philippians 4 tells us more about how to think and how to trust in him, when our thoughts are on him, his peace is with us. Not because we like what's going on, but because we know the one we serve is bigger than everything that's going on. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you for your time. Be blessed and be encouraged. God's in control, and we will overcome in him. God bless.